Future Fridays.
Hello YouTube and welcome to
Future Fridays,
the place where you come to learn about all the best upcoming PC releases and decide if you should buy that game or leave it to gather dust on the shelf in your virtual store of choice. Last week we took a look at a simulator that lets you clean up the waste of an imaginary city. We showed you a game where you can make a virtual enterprise of trains, trams and other transportation systems, and we gave you a quick preview and thoughts on the upcoming Sims 4. All of those games have now been released, but if you're still undecided on them, feel free to jump back to episode 1 for a recap. In this week's episode, we have 3 mind-blowingly awesome games that each, in their own ways, are going to give you nightmares for weeks. The Evil Within is the next big, eagerly anticipated upcoming horror game. Coming from the creator of Resident Evil and executive producer of Devil May Cry, this promises to be a terrifying, no-holds-barred rollercoaster of a game that's going to leave you crying for mummy and unable to enter a dark room alone for months. So, this survival horror game will drop you right into the heart of the investigation of a gruesome mass murder. You are Detective Sebastian Castellanos, and alone, you'll encounter some kind of mysterious and powerful force. You're then knocked unconscious and find yourself in some sick and twisted world that words really can't describe. Take what you expect or what you've seen in the worst, sickest and most twisted horror stories, multiply it by terrifying, and you have the Evil Within. If you want to give yourself nightmares, wet your bed and lose the colour in your hair, this game is definitely for you. The whole environment in the Evil Within is gruesome, filled with scenes of torn flesh and blood-soaked walls. Aesthetically, this game is kind of beautiful, displaying some of the most impressive graphics I've ever seen in a survival horror. Of course, you're going to be far too busy hiding under your desk to pay too much attention to the graphics. If you've played other games like this, you'll be happy to know that this game doesn't look like the slow-paced, wet style of horror that some games delivered. The game seems to jump from horrifying to all-out crap your pants and Alt F4 in no time at all. For each minute that the game is building tension, there appears to be another 10 where you're running from a mutilated psycho killer, all while trying to figure out what the hell you're meant to do, where you're meant to go, and if you'll ever be the same again. If you want to compare this to other games, you're probably going to have a hard time. The Evil Within makes games like Silent Hill and Outlast look like happy fun time with Barbie and Ken, and while I can't comment on the story as I've only been able to watch hands-off trailers, coming from the great Shinji Mikami and published by Bethesda Softworks, if this doesn't have the most in-depth and thrilling story you've ever played, I'll eat my hat. Now let's talk about price. Currently you can pre-order The Evil Within for $34.99, which is in my opinion the best price a game can be. You know that the game will be fully developed, have enough content and be immersive enough to keep your nightmares from letting you sleep for a good while. While there is a season pass for $14.99 also available, I don't think that not owning the upcoming DLCs will make the game feel empty. I'm hoping, like all Bethesda content, the DLCs will actually add new and interesting things that you hadn't have thought of before. For me, this game is a 10 out of 10 must buy. I will certainly be investing in this game myself. Whether or not I get past the first scene though, well that depends on if my heart keeps beating or not.
Cases like this one didn't come along very often. In Red Creek Valley, the secrets grew like spider webs, and Ethan Carter disturbed one he shouldn't have. Now people were dying.
Moving away from the absolutely terrifying towards a more scenic and perhaps interesting type of investigative roleplay, we have The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. This game revolves around Detective Paul Prospero, private investigator into the occult with his own weird and spooky powers.
No place.
Paul has received a letter from a boy named Ethan Carter, and realising that he's in danger, you're dropped into Red Creek Valley, a huge open world area that you're invited to explore at your own will. You're not limited to where you go or what you do, as the developers of this game have put no artificial blockers to inhibit your gameplay. This game expertly builds atmosphere and stories using interesting and new mechanics. You play with certain special abilities that would allow you to see things that the average man would not. While certain mechanics such as glowing screen bubbles might make you think twice about how the game has been developed, when you compare this to the traditional map marker system that most games use, the new mechanics make a lot of sense, and I have faith that they will only add to the overall immersion of the game. Based on the macabre tales of the early 20th century, this game is less likely to be an all-out horror and perhaps won't leave you quaking with fear at the end of each gaming session like The Evil Within would. However, the puzzle-solving elements of this game will certainly make you think and be hugely engaging. I get the feeling that this will be the type of game that will keep you engaged for days at a time and leave you wanting more every time you have to pry yourself away from it. Where graphics are concerned, this game is visually outstanding. As you can see in the gameplay trailers, each individual detail is intended to push the overall story along, creating and building the tense and all too eerie atmosphere surrounding Red Creek Valley. Adding to this, the game's soundtrack and dialogues are extremely well thought out and will drip feed you information and again, slowly build that atmosphere that any gamer would relish. All of this surely means that the Vanishing of Ethan Carter will be an astonishingly good gem of a AAA title, something that won't disappoint even the most picky gamers. All of this, and the game is available for pre-order with bonus items for, wait for it, $14.99. If you don't buy this game, then it will really be your own loss. In my opinion, this is the next step in defining the investigative macabre genre and pushing it into the mainstream. Available on the 25th of September, I would seriously suggest you go and pre-order this game so you can take full advantage of the special edition package. The latest installment from the Alien franchise and from the creative assembly, makers of the Total War games, Alien Isolation is set to be another mind-blowingly awesome release in the survival horror genre. Yes, that's right, another survival horror. However, moving away from the Silent Hill-esque type of gameplay that we've seen in The Evil Within, Isolation delivers a beautiful and all too believable picture of the not too distant future. Moreover, we're not looking at the mindless action-packed James Cameron style of Alien that disappointed so many with the subsequent production of Colonial Marines. The game is set in 2137 and you are Amanda Ripley, daughter of the missing Ellen Ripley. You've been assigned to find the flight recorder of Nostromo in order to find out what happened to your mother, but unbeknown to you, the station that you're investigating has already been infested by the terrifying alien. Isolation has only one alien and your job is not to kill it, but to improvise with your environment, craft makeshift objects and escape for as long as you can. This is not a game where you're just going to be blasting through countless annoying NPC bugs, but where you're consistently and terrifyingly at the mercy of both your claustrophobic and solitary surroundings and the complex behavioural AI that's been designed specifically to make you wish you'd never heard the word alien. This is not a game where you'll be able to work out where the AI is programmed to look and simply avoid all scariness. In this game, the alien is designed to learn from you and your actions and encounters so that it can adjust to your gameplay accordingly. That's right, if you think you're some kind of god when it comes to playing survival horrors, the way this game is developed might make you reassess your in-game abilities completely. The levels of the game are non-linear, meaning that you play the game the way you see fit, pulling you away from being forced into making stupid decisions that are only frustrating and ruin the overall immersion of the game. As are all of the games in this week's episode, Isolation is graphically beautiful, and a reincarnation of Ridley Scott's 70s vision of the game. That is, everything in the game has been painstakingly modelled as if it were designed in the 70s to give the feel of the original movie that captured and petrified the minds of millions. While I can't comment on any of the specific mechanics of the game, each individual aspect seems extremely well thought out and should not disappoint. From a dynamic soundtrack that varies based on your own actions to a crafting system that will make each alien encounter individually terrifying and interesting, this game will keep you occupied for days, if not weeks, after purchase. The non-linear style of the game opens it up to multiple playthroughs, meaning that even if you manage to blast through the game in what seems like no time at all, you can always go back and experience it over and over in brand new ways. Right now, as I'm putting this episode together, Alien Isolation is available on Steam for pre-order for $31.99. It's reduced from $39.99, so if you're going to buy this game, which I suggest you should seriously consider pre-ordering and saving yourself a little bit of money. Okay guys, so that's it for this week's episode of
Future Fridays.
I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have any questions about any of the games in this week's episode, or simply want to make your presence known, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. I've been Prouxx and you've been awesome. See you next week.